Stay until number 10, because number 10 is the most insane disappearance on this list. A sitting prime minister walked into the ocean in front of witnesses and simply never came back. But before we get there, a woman disappeared over the Pacific Ocean with 6 hours of fuel. 66 ships searched 250,000 square miles. They found absolutely nothing. Not a single piece of wreckage. Not a single bone. Here are 10 famous disappearances that were never solved. July 2nd, 1937. The Pacific Ocean. Amelia Earhart was 22,000 miles into her attempt to fly around the world. She had one final impossible task. Find a tiny island just 2 miles long in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Her radio was failing. Her fuel was almost gone. At 8:43 a.m., she transmitted her final message. She reported flying north and south, but seeing nothing. Then silence. Complete and permanent silence. The United States launched the largest search in naval history. 66 ships, 4,000 personnel, 250,000 square miles searched. Nothing. In 2018, forensic analysis suggested a 99% probability that bones found on a Pacific island belonged to Earhart. The bones were later lost. Nearly 90 years later, nobody knows what happened to her. But the next disappearance on this list is different, because this one happened in a restaurant parking lot, in broad daylight, and the most powerful investigators in America spent 45 years searching. July 30th, 1975, Detroit, Michigan. Jimmy Hoffa was the most powerful union boss in American history. He had ties to organized crime at the highest levels. That afternoon, he drove to the Matches Red Fox restaurant for a meeting. He was seen in the parking lot at 2:45 p.m. Witnesses saw him get into a car with several men. He was never seen again. His car was found still parked at the restaurant. The FBI investigated for 45 years. They named suspects. They excavated locations. They found nothing. Giant Stadium, a New Jersey marsh, a Detroit driveway. All searched. All empty. Jimmy Hoffa was declared legally dead in 1982. His body has never been found. The most powerful union boss in America vanished from a parking lot. But the next case is even stranger, because this person didn't just disappear. They disappeared with $200,000 cash and jumped out of a plane. November 24th, 1971, Portland, Oregon. A man calling himself Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305. He looked completely ordinary. Dark suit, black tie, briefcase. Shortly after takeoff, he passed a note to the flight attendant. It said he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. His demands were met in Seattle. He released the passengers, then ordered the plane to fly low toward Mexico. Somewhere over the forests of Washington or Oregon, he jumped into complete darkness with $200,000 strapped to his body. He was never seen again. In 1980, a young boy found $5,800 of decomposing bills along the Columbia River. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom money. Nobody knows how it got there. The FBI investigated for 45 years before suspending the case in 2016. Over 1,000 suspects were investigated. None were charged. D.B. Cooper remains the only unidentified hijacker in American aviation history. But the next disappearance is the one that will keep you awake tonight, because it happened on Christmas Eve, and the victims were 5 children. December 24th, 1945, Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Ginny Sodder had 10 children. That Christmas Eve, a fire broke out in their home. George and Ginny escaped with 4 of their children, but 5 children were missing: Maurice, Martha, Louis, Ginny, and Betty. Firefighters searched the burned ruins. No bones, no teeth, no remains of any kind. The ladder George tried to use to rescue them had disappeared from the yard. The family's phone line had been cut before the fire started. The truck George tried to use also failed to start, despite working perfectly that day. Without remains, the Sodder family refused to accept that their children had died. They erected a billboard asking, "What happened to our children?" The billboard stood for decades. In 1968, they received an anonymous letter containing a photo. The photo showed a young man who looked exactly like Louis Sodder, aged in his 30s, postmarked from Kentucky, no return address. The 5 Sodder children were never found. But what comes next is a story that shook an entire country, because this next person was a British lord who vanished after a murder, and the entire establishment helped him disappear. November 7th, 1974, London, England. Lord Lucan was a British aristocrat, charming, wealthy, and deeply in debt from gambling. That night, his children's nanny, Sandra Rivet, was found beaten to death in the family home. His estranged wife, Veronica, was also attacked and badly injured. She survived and identified Lord Lucan as her attacker. Lord Lucan fled into the night. His car was found abandoned on the coast at New Haven. Blood matching the nanny's was found inside. But Lord Lucan was gone. Friends received calls and letters from him in the days after. The British establishment, his wealthy aristocratic friends, closed ranks around him. Sightings were reported across Africa, Australia, and South America for decades. He was declared legally dead in 1999. The murder of Sandra Rivet has never been prosecuted. Whether Lord Lucan died, escaped, or lived in exile, nobody knows. But the next disappearance is on a completely different scale, because it's not one person, it's 239 people, and an entire aircraft, that simply vanished from the face of the earth. March 8, 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 departed at 12:41 a.m. with 239 people aboard. 40 minutes into the flight, contact was lost. The plane's transponder was deliberately switched off. Military radar tracked it, making a sharp U-turn back over Malaysia. Then it flew south for hours over the Indian Ocean. At 8:19 a.m., a final automated satellite ping was received. Then nothing. 239 people vanished from the face of the earth. The most expensive search in aviation history followed. Over $200 million spent searching the Indian Ocean. Small debris pieces washed ashore, confirmed as MH370. But the main wreckage and the 239 people have never been found. No definitive explanation for why the plane turned around has ever been established. MH370 remains the greatest unsolved aviation mystery in history. But the next case takes us to a beach in Australia, on a public holiday, in broad daylight, with thousands of witnesses, and 3 children who simply never came home. January 26, 1966. Glenelg Beach, Adelaide, Australia. Jane, aged 9, Arna, aged 7, and Grant, aged 4, took a bus to the beach alone. It was Australia Day. The beach was packed with thousands of people. Multiple witnesses saw the 3 children playing with an unknown, tall, blonde man. They were seen buying food with money their parents had not given them. They never came home. Their parents waited at the bus stop all afternoon. Police launched the largest investigation in Australian history. Over 100,000 people were interviewed. The tall blonde man was never identified. Jane had been seen writing a letter. Police believed she was writing to the man. The letter was never found. No suspect was ever charged. No remains were ever found. The Beaumont children were never found. Their parents never stopped searching until their deaths. Australia lost its innocence that day. But the next case is about a man who went looking for something and disappeared so completely that over 100 people died just trying to find him. The Amazon jungle, Brazil. Percy Fawcett was a British explorer obsessed with finding what he called the City of Z, a legendary lost civilization he believed was hidden deep in the Amazon. In May 1925, he entered the jungle with his son Jack and his son's friend, Raleigh Rymel. On May 29th, he sent his final letter. He wrote they were about to enter unexplored territory. He asked that no rescue party be sent if they did not return. They were never seen again. Percy Fawcett was 57 years old. Over the following decades, more than 100 people died searching for Fawcett. Theories include death by hostile tribes, disease, or choosing to stay among indigenous people. Percy Fawcett, his son Jack, and Raleigh Rymel have never been found. The City of Z has never been found either. The jungle kept its secrets. But what comes next is the case that disturbs investigators the most, because 3 women vanished from inside a house, with no signs of struggle, with all their belongings still inside. And the only clue was a broken ornament on the front porch. June 7, 1992. Springfield, Missouri. Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter and Susie's friend Stacy McCall had just attended a graduation party. They returned to Cheryl's house late that night. The next morning, all three had vanished. The house showed no signs of struggle. Their purses, cars, and personal belongings were all still inside. A broken decorative globe on the front porch was the only sign anything had happened. A neighbor reported hearing a scream in the night. Police arrived quickly and found nothing. Over 4,000 tips were investigated. Multiple suspects were questioned and released. No arrests were ever made. No remains were ever found. Cheryl Levitt, Susie Streeter, and Stacy McCall have never been found. The Springfield Three remains one of the most haunting unsolved disappearances in American history. And now, number 10. The one we told you about at the beginning. The most insane disappearance on this list. A sitting prime minister who walked into the ocean in front of witnesses and never came back. December 17th, 1967. Cheviot Beach, Victoria, Australia. Harold Holt was the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. He was known as a powerful swimmer who loved the ocean. That morning, he arrived at Cheviot Beach with friends. The seas were rough. The currents were strong. His friends urged him not to go in. Harold Holt waded into the water anyway. His friends watched from the shore. A large wave hit. Harold Holt disappeared beneath the surface. He never came up. The largest search in Australian history followed. Navy divers, aircraft, ships, days of searching. No body was ever found. Harold Holt was declared legally dead on the same day he disappeared. Conspiracy theories emerged immediately. Some claimed he faked his death and defected to China by submarine. Others believed he was extracted by a CIA vessel. The Australian government officially concluded he drowned. But without a body, the theories never stopped. Harold Holt was 59 years old. The serving Prime Minister of Australia walked into the ocean and never came back. 10 disappearances. 0 answers. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones, and drop your suggestions for the next video in the comments below.